The saying, "one man's trash is another man's treasure," rings true in a rather unusual case where the trash, in this instance, turned out to be worth a staggering $400 million. Parker SCHNABEL, a seasoned prospector, made an incredible discovery. Deep within the wilderness, what appeared to be an abandoned, rusting piece of mining equipment buried under layers of dirt was actually hiding a massive fortune. Parker found a forgotten trommel, an enormous gold processing machine that had been left to decay for decades. But what truly amazed him was that it wasn't entirely empty. Inside, there was gold. Not just a few specks, but a significant amount, enough to make history. However, the big question was, how did such a valuable piece of machinery end up forgotten and abandoned in the first place? And more importantly, what would Parker do with this once-in-a-lifetime discovery? At first glance, the trommel seemed like nothing more than an old pile of rusted scrap metal, completely overtaken by the forest. It was covered in grime, surrounded by thick vegetation, and had the look of something abandoned a long time ago. But Parker and his team weren't fooled by its rough exterior. They recognized that this wasn't just any old piece of equipment. This was once a powerhouse in its prime. The trommel was a gigantic steel drum built to process enormous amounts of dirt each day, separating out gold nuggets and fine particles. However, unlike today's high-tech, precise mining machines, this old contraption was built for power and volume, not accuracy. It could process tons of material, but its old design meant a lot of the finer gold was lost in the process. Instead of capturing all the gold dust, fine particles slipped through the cracks and mixed back into the dirt. And that's where the real twist of this story comes in. All that lost gold had been sitting there untouched for decades. For years, rumors had swirled about a forgotten mining site in the area. Some locals speculated that it was once part of a large-scale mining operation that ran out of funds and shut down. Others believed that the area held rich, untapped dirt laden with gold, but no one had dared to dig deeper. That all changed when Parker arrived on the scene. As he climbed onto the trommel and began brushing away the accumulated dirt and grime, something caught his eye, a tiny flicker of shiny metal. At first, Parker thought it was merely a trick of the light, but when he looked closer, his heart began to race. What he found was gold. Not just a few flakes, but a significant amount, trapped inside the machine. Parker instantly realized that he had stumbled upon something extraordinary. But there was one major problem. The trommel wasn't just broken. It was in terrible shape. Years of exposure to the elements had left it rusted, jammed, and barely standing. If Parker wanted to extract any gold from this site, he would have to somehow resurrect the machine. And that was no small task. The first challenge was figuring out how to move this massive piece of machinery without causing even more damage. The trommel was enormous and weighed tons, a true engineering marvel of its time, but now it was stuck in place. The metal had corroded, the frame was fragile, and one wrong move could lead to the entire machine collapsing. Moving it out of the wilderness and into a location where it could be restored was a logistical nightmare. It required all the team's engineering expertise and sheer determination to safely transport it. But that was only the beginning. Once the machine was in position, the real work started. Every single part needed attention. The gears were worn down and could barely turn. The screens were clogged with years of dirt, and the steel drum, the heart of the machine, was barely holding together. It was clear the trommel needed a complete overhaul. As the days passed, the team faced one setback after another. Parts were difficult to find, rusted bolts wouldn't budge, and time was running out. The entire operation hinged on getting the trommel back in working order, but failure was simply not an option. Parker was resolute. He knew what was at stake, and after days of sweat, struggle, and determination, something incredible happened. The trommel roared back to life. The team had expected good results once the machine was up and running, but nothing could have prepared them for what came next. While clearing the area around the trommel, they discovered something hidden under layers of dirt and debris, an untouched pile of old pay dirt. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary mound of dirt, but when they tested it for gold, the results were nothing short of staggering. The concentration of gold in this forgotten pile was off the charts, much higher than anything Parker had ever encountered. This was no small find. It was a potential gold mine just waiting to be processed. Realizing the potential of this discovery, Parker knew he had to act fast. He didn't have time to build a full-scale wash plant, so he set up a temporary processing station, using a combination of traditional mining techniques and modern equipment. This time he wasn't taking any chances. Every single speck of gold was going to be recovered, and the results were absolutely astonishing. Day after day, the gold continued to accumulate. As the totals climbed higher and higher, Parker realized that this wasn't just a good haul. He had uncovered one of the largest gold finds of his career. The value of the recovered gold skyrocketed into the millions, turning what started as a desperate attempt to revive a broken machine into a jackpot of epic proportions. But just when Parker thought things couldn't get any better, the team uncovered even more incredible surprises. As they dug deeper into the land and researched the history of the site, they uncovered a series of old mining records that changed everything. The documents revealed a hidden network of abandoned gold-rich sites, all traced back to the very Trommel Parker had just revived. These records detailed areas that had high concentrations of gold, sites that had been left untouched for decades. It was like discovering a treasure map, leading Parker and his team to untapped riches. If the records were accurate, the Trommel was just the beginning. Who knew how much more gold was still buried beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered? However, before pursuing new gold-rich sites, Parker had a crucial task at hand: fully restoring the Trommel. This was no longer just a mining machine. It had become a symbol of the perseverance and innovation that could unlock the secrets of the past. Restoring the Trommel wasn't just about bringing an old machine back to life. It was about honoring the miners who had used it, people who had braved harsh conditions in pursuit of striking it rich. Each dent, rusted gear, and worn-down panel told a story of a bygone era. It was clear that this machine had once been a dominant force in gold mining. To ensure the Trommel was restored to its former glory, Parker brought in specialists. Every repair had to be executed with precision, as even the smallest mistake could jeopardize the entire operation. Weeks of tireless work later, the team watched in awe as the Trommel roared back to life. The fully restored machine processed dirt with incredible efficiency, separating gold nuggets and fine particles with remarkable speed. What had once been a rusted relic was now a gold-extracting powerhouse. The success of the restored Trommel was more than just a mining victory. It was a reminder that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't hidden underground, but are buried in the history of forgotten machinery and untapped potential. By bringing the Trommel back to life, Parker and his team had proven that innovation and perseverance could turn even the most rusted, outdated equipment into something extraordinary.